All right, welcome to Pro Football's first 50 years, where we take the past and we bring it back to life. Now, if you can go online, I'm talking the first 50 years here, especially going back to the 20s and the 30s. And you go online and you can find the box score for each and every game, what the final score was, who scored the touchdown, maybe how far a field goal was. You can find the start lineups for each team, the attendance, where the game was played at. You might even find, for certain games, small little video clips on YouTube, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute, couple minutes long, on, some individual games. Right? But exactly what happened during each and every game? Well, thanks to old newspaper articles, we get to take a little bit of a deeper dive into each and every football game of the first 50 years. Now, just a little news flash here for you, right? There ain't no fancy videos going on here, nothing like that. All there is you and me for the next 30 to 60 minutes. So if that's all right with you, let's get it on. In today's game, this will be the third meeting of the season for Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. For the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears. Two of the top three teams in the NFL. The Packers won the first two meetings. I'll go over their schedules in just a second here. That this one, spoiler alert, the Bears would win this one rather convincingly. The shame part of it is, I've said this, the 1930 was the year of the missed extra point. I could go back to probably at least 4, 5, 6 games or so where like one extra point was made. One side or the other, a different team would win the championship. And, the top three teams, the Packers, the Giants were in second place, and the Bears might have been third place. There were multiple games throughout the season that if many extra points were missed. But if an extra point was made or here or there, the Bears could have won the title. The Giants could have won the title. The Packers did wind up winning the title. So it was a very, very interesting year. The Packers here will I'll just show you right here. Started off, like gangbusters. This is the Bears. So we're going to go to the Packers here, since we're talking about them. They started off like gangbusters. Then they started falling apart. They started off their season in an exhibition game. They beat the Oshkosh All-Stars 46-0. But then they rattled off 8 straight victories. And one of them, I'm sorry, my bad. 2 of them were against the Bears. They won 7-0, and then they won 13-12. This is another one of those I was just pointing out. Now, it is what it is. You can't change nothing. And even the Packers in this game missed an extra point. But however, if the Chicago Bears made both of these extra points, they would have won the title. It's crazy. But as we see here, this would be the second to last game for each of these teams. The Portsmouth Spartans, the Packers would play one more game after this. But after this, the Bears won this game 21-0. The game was played in Chicago at Wrigley Field. But there's another example right here. Now, the Packers, the final game against the Spartans. Now, the Packers missed their extra point. But had the Spartans made this extra point, this kick right here, had this kick been good, the New York Giants would have won the title. It's crazy. But you see, right, so the Bears would win 21-0. The Packers started off 8-0. Then they lost 2 in a row. Then they beat the Yellow Jackets. Then they would also go on and they would beat the Staten Island Stapletons. This game here against the Newark Tornadoes was canceled because the Newark Tornadoes canceled their final 4 home games of the 1930 season because of attendance. So In the beginning of the season, the Packers were on the schedule to play the Newark Tornadoes in Newark, New Jersey. But as I said, because of poor attendance, Newark and would cancel the final 4 home games, and they would not play in the NFL anymore after the 1930 season. So we go to the, as I said, then the Packers, they lost here to the Bears, and then they would tie the Spartans. As I said, had they lost to the Spartans here, the Giants would have won the title. But so we go to the Bears. Now, this is also interesting. The Bears would play one more game after this, too, but with a little bit of a twist. Right, so we got here, there's the Bears. Now, the Bears were the exact opposite of the Packers. The Packers started strong, finished the last 6 games of the Packers. They were 2-3-1. They started 8-0. They finished 2-3-1. Bears were the exact opposite. The Bears, look, the Bears rattled off the last 6 victories here. This was against the Ironton Tanks, who must have been pretty good because I believe they beat the Giants as well, too. So the Ironton Tanks kick some butt here. They beat the Bears. They beat, I think I said, the Giants as well, too. So they must have been pretty good. Although in an exhibition game, sometimes, the pros maybe didn't play their starters the whole game, or sometimes maybe didn't play their starters much at all. So, but anyway, well, you'll see that the Bears, they finished the final 6 games. They won their final 6 games in a row. But they started off bad. They had a tie, then had a loss, a couple wins, a loss, a win, a loss, a couple wins, and a loss. So they started off bad. These 4 losses here did them in. And this one right here against the Packers, they missed 2 extra points right here. That's what did them in. But the final game of the season for the Bears, they would play the Cardinals. This was a game for charity. And I believe they collected, it was about $10,000 toward charity. But the game was played in Chicago Stadium, the house of the Blackhawks. So the game was played indoors. It's the same exact place that they played the 1932 playoff game between the Portsmouth Spartans and the Chicago Bears to see who would win the championship. So the game was played indoors. Very interesting. Oops. But this game here was played at Wrigley Field. So let's go over Wrigley Field there. Just a little bit. Touch, see what oops. There we go. All right. Now, Wrigley Field, I got a lot of tabs open up here. So let me just see here. There we go. Wrigley Field. I got most of on Wikipedia, but Wrigley Field is about baseball, obviously so. But, I mean, the Bears played at Wrigley Field for quite some time. So, but as you'll see here, the Bears of the National Football League played at Wrigley Field for 50 years, from 1921 to 1970, before relocating to Soldier Field. The team had transferred from Decatur and retained the name Staley's for the 1921 season. So in 1920, they played in Decatur, Illinois, not Chicago. 1921, they moved to Chicago, but they were called the Chicago Staley's. 1922, they became the Chicago Bears. As we see here, they renamed themselves the Bears in order to identify with the baseball team, the Cubs. Then a common practice in the NFL. Wrigley Field once held the record for the most NFL games played in a single stadium, with 365 regular season games. But this record was surpassed in 2003 by the Giant Stadium in New Jersey, thanks to its dual occupancy by the Giants and the Jets. Now, also, you go to, I mean, when the Giants and the Jets were there, they were playing 16 game schedules. The Bears, when the Bears played at Wrigley Field, they were playing on times a 12-game schedule. So the Giants and the Jets had dual occupancy, but also they were playing more games per season there too. So, Let's see. On September 14, 2003, the game played between the Jets and the Dolphins was the 366th regular season game at Giant Stadium, breaking Wrigley's regular season record. The 50 seasons the Bears spent at Wrigley Field have been an NFL record until 2006, when Lambeau Field duplicated this feat by hosting the Green Bay Packers for a 50th season and broke it in 2007. Soldier Field also matched the accomplishment when the Bears played there for the 50th season in 2021. And would break the record when the Bears played their 51st season in the venue in 2022. Initially, the Bears worked with the stands that were there. Eventually, they acquired a large portable bleacher section that spanned the right and center field areas and covered most of the existing bleacher seating and part of the right field corner seating. This east stand raised Wrigley Field's football capacity to about 47,000, or a net gain of perhaps 9,000 seats over normal capacity. After the Bears left, this structure would live on for several years as the north stand at Soldier Field, until it was replaced by permanent seating. The football field ran north to south. Now I'm going to show you a few pictures of how the football field is situated in Wrigley Field. Actually, it was called Cubs Park initially, and then it changed its name in the late 20s to Wrigley Field. Football field ran north to south, or from left field to the foul side of first base. The remodeling of the bleachers made for a very tight fit for the gridiron. In fact, the corner of the south end zone was literally in the visiting baseball team's dugout, which was filled with pads for safety and required a special ground rule that sliced off the corner of the end zone. The end zone was also shorter than the north, as the south end zone was 8 yards compared to the regulation 10 yards. One corner of the north end line ran just inches short of the left field wall. There was a legend that Bronco Nagurski steamrolled through the line head down and ran all the way through that end zone, smacking his leather helmeted head on the bricks. He went back to the bench and told then coach George Hallis, "That last guy gave me quite a lick." That kind of incident prompted the Bears to hang some padding in front of the wall. The Bears were second only to the Packers in total NFL championships. Let's see here. A lot of games, a lot of different, Northwestern Wildcats played there. Illinois Fighting Illini played a game, a college football game at Wrigley Field in 2010. There's a picture of that. I'm going to show you that. They also played soccer there, as you see here, right? Also played hockey, right? How cool is that, right? January 1st, 2009, National Hockey League played its Winter Classic between the Blackhawks and the Red Wings. I mean, that's just about as cool as you can possibly get. Ain't nothing cooler than hockey outside, man. That's freaking awesome. But see, you can see a small picture here, Wrigley Field with football configuration. So get a little bit of a bigger picture here. Let me stop sharing. All right. And I'll go over a few other pictures of Wrigley Field with the football configuration in there. But December 7th, 1930, Packers and the Bears. All right. All right, let me share screen. I got a few different areas. Here we go. All right. So you can see here. Let's see if I can. So you see the wall, right? The outfield wall, right? And then you can see, right, the wall is here. I mean, yeah. And then, right here, the wall, and at the back of the end zone and the wall. Now, Wrigley Field's not a huge stadium. I mean, it's a crazy, it's got a lot of wind, and it's not very big. I I mean, if the outfield fence was farther away and all of that, it would be a little more accommodating for a football field, but it's not. It just, so you can see how tight it is back here. There's not a lot of extra room. Let's see, you got, whoops, there you go. There's a little bit extra room back here. All right, there's that one. Let's see, I got a couple other pictures here. All right, we get this one here. Now, this is one with the Bears. This is an old-time picture here. Well, I guess I can show a couple of them here. This is the Bears. I have no idea. This is at, I don't know where this is at. Somebody wants $5,500 for this picture. I mean, I don't know. A little crazy. But I mean, how cool is it? I mean, it's a cool freaking picture. But you get the Bears and the Packers. There's Ray Nitschke. So I guess, yeah. Well, Nitschke was there until 72. I think it was 71, 72 with the Packers. So I mean, this is sometime, obviously, probably in the 60s. But I mean, it's a cool, obviously. But you can see, same thing down here. There's not a lot of extra room here. I mean, here's the end zone. Right? And you see there's the wall here. I mean, just very, very cool. Awesome picture. Here's another one. Chicago Bears. Getty images. So if you want this image from Getty, it'd be about $37,000. It's ridiculous what they want for a picture too. Whoops, hold on. Oh, okay. Can we I make this? Nope, can't make it bigger. Hold on. There we go. You can see over here, like there's not a lot of room behind, right? And then here, it's a little bit of room here, but you can see like over here, like it gets cut off, a little bit. So, just very, very cool. All right, then I got one more here to show. All right, video. Oops, share screen. All right, we got. All right, this one too from high up. There's a few other ones, but this one here. Let's see this. Okay, Wrigley Field. Right. Yeah, this one here. So you can see the Cubs, right? So once again, right, you see, can I keep zooming in a little bit more? See, right? So you see here, I mean, the end zone. You see there's some padding right here. But this would be the dugout right here that we're referring to. Like people running through here, run into the dugout, then they put padding there. But you can see, now I'm not sure if it is 8 yards or not. I'm not sure if this is 8 yards. That's the one they're referring to. It looks like this one here might be bigger, could possibly be 10 yards. And this one could be the one that's 8 yards because you see the line back here, it would run right into this dugout right here. So quite possibly this is the one that maybe they're referring to in Wikipedia. It might be 8 yards in length, in depth, I'm sorry. And this is the one that's 10. So you can see, I mean, if you're running a pattern out here and you catch the pass, I mean, you could be falling right into the dugout. And then these are the bleachers that they were talking about. See, right? Because, right, these are the bleachers here, and then people would sit out here. See these seats out here? This is where people would sit. See these people sitting here? Right, these people sitting here. Well, it would curve around, right? And the people would be for a baseball game would be sitting over here. But they put the bleachers in, obviously, to bring people closer to the action. Plus, also, you bring more people to the action because, I mean, you can see right here, there's not a lot of people who would be sitting there. But you bring these in, bring a lot more people in. Just one of those cool pictures, right? You can see here, Wrigley Field. Can I click on this? This is going to, nope. Nope. So you can see, I mean, the field had to go from here to over here. So it's definitely is not enough room going this way. Just barely enough room going this way. But as I said, I mean, the field it's not really big. It's really not big at all. But of course, a lot of it also has to do with the streets. I mean, you can't push this wall out any farther because the back of the stadium would be on a street. Same thing here. It's got the street right here. So you can only make the stadium as big as, the streets around it. So, but if the stadium was a little bit bigger, obviously the football field would fit a lot more comfortably in there. But it is what it is. Right. Now, I got obviously a few articles here. The last one we're going to go over is the Green Bay Press Gazette, which goes play by play, pretty much, of what happened in this game. So I got a couple other ones here. We'll show here first. Share the screen. All right. So we're going to go to, all right, page 5 of the December 8th edition of the Chippewa Herald. The Chippewa Herald Telegram newspaper. Got a little bit of an article here. All right. Bears defeat Packers at Chicago as Grange and Nagurski run wild. And over here, say, I was talking about this. Bears to play Cardinals, Pro 11 indoors. Now let's read this real fast. This was the final game of the season for the Bears against the Cardinals, which I just showed you. And it was going to be for charity. That is the same exact stadium that they played in for the 1932 playoff game, if you want to call it, which decided the championship, because both the Portsmouth Spartans, a.k.a. the Detroit Lions, and the Chicago Bears both finished the season with 6-1 records. I think the Spartans had 4 ties. The Bears, I think, had 6 ties. Ties did not count in the standings. Only thing that counted in the standings back then was the wins and the losses. So both teams were 6-1. Both had the identical winning percentage. So they had to have a playoff to see who would wind up winning. And they wind up playing it indoor because of there's supposed to be like a blizzard, which was supposed to be hit Chicago, but never came. And so therefore they really didn't have to play, I don't think, indoors. They probably could have wound up playing at Wrigley Field, but it is what it is. But so we got the Red Grange, Bronco Nagurski, Ernie Nevers with the Cardinals will do their galloping with the football indoors when the Bears and the Cardinals closed their National League season on December 15th. And incidentally, December 15th, it wasn't even on a Sunday. It was on a Tuesday. I'm sorry. Tuesday. Was that? Hold on. My bad. It was a Monday. I apologize. It was a Monday. So, all right. The contest will be played in the Chicago Stadium where the Blackhawks played. And the entire proceeds will go to the Illinois Unemployment Commission. A special surface will be prepared for a playing field 80 yards long and almost as wide as a regulation outdoor gridiron. Almost, but not quite. The Bears have a contract with the Chicago National League Baseball Club to play all their games at Wrigley Field, but President William L. Veek released the club for the game. Chicago's last indoor football game of importance was played in 1895 between Wisconsin and the Carlisle Institute in the Old World's Fair Coliseum. So this was in 1930. So they're a charity game was going to be played indoors. But on to our normal feature. Bears defeat Packers at Chicago as Grange and Nagurski run wild. The Pro Champs unable to get started and are completely outplayed. Now, what I mean, the Pro Champs, referring obviously to the Packers, who won the championship in 1929. They would win the championship in 1930, and they would win the championship in 1931. The first true ever three-peat in NFL history. Not to be confused with the Bulldog three-peat, the 22, 23, and 24 Bulldog, the 22 Canton Bulldog, the 23 Canton Bulldog, and the 24 Cleveland Bulldogs. So, Bulldogs 3 years in a row, but not the same city. Although the 24, I would have to count up, but the 24 Cleveland Bulldogs had quite a few of the Canton Bulldogs on their roster. But, all right, Chicago. Bewildered and crushed by a diversified Chicago Bear aerial and ground attack, the Green Bay Packers, 1929 National League champions, failed to clinch the 1930 crown at Cubs Park Sunday afternoon, falling in defeat by the convincing margin of 21-0. Had the Packers won this game, they would have clinched. So it all came down to the final game of the season. Right? Packers could have won, Giants could have won. There was nothing fluky about the Bear victory. It was well-earned and conclusive. Coach Ralph Jones's team used power when needed, resorted to trickery at times, and was especially potent in the air. Above everything else, Sunday's game proved beyond all doubt the greatness of Red Grange and Bronco Nagurski. The famed Illini redhead reeled off many great runs, intercepted 3 Packer passes, returning 129 yards after a marvelous bit of broken field running, and displayed more blocking class than 99 fans and 100 suspected he'd have. But as in the last Bear-Packer game here, it was that old Minnesota nag who was the power weapon that kept pounding the Bay line that caused Coach Curly Lambeau to switch his Packer defensive plans, and that kept the Bay secondary up close enough to get Luke Johnsos away for touchdowns on 2 perfectly executed forward passes. The Bronco Nagurski battered and hauled, slammed and banged at the Bay front wall, and usually it was the vaunted Packer line that came off second best. Joe Savoldi, the Notre Dame bridegroom, replaced the nag at the start of the second half, with the Bears holding a 7-0 advantage. But when the Packers started a touchdown march with blood catching 2 passes from under Joe's nose, the ex-Rambler was removed and the old nag came to work more havoc. Savoldi is Savoldi and all of that, but he's not a Nagurski when it comes to matching wits with the cream of the professional football talent. Dick Nesbitt, the Drake star who ran the Irish Ragged a year ago at Soldier Field, was another bothersome gent. The former Drake star punting marvelously and breaking away for one gallop of 38 yards for a touchdown. Blood's fumble hurts. From the outset, it was apparent that the hard-charging Bear linemen were not going to crack and that the Bay ground attack would not be of much use because of the strong defensive play of the Bears and the rather important blocking of the champions. Blood's fumble on the Bay 15-yard line gave the Bears an opening after the first kickoff, but Red Grange returned the favor by fumbling on the first play, O'Donnell recovering for the Packers. Throughout most of the first half, the Bears had what slight advantage there was in play, Nagurski ripping off many gains from 3 to 7 yards as the Bears worked the ball into Green Bay territory. Yeah, if you ever see, I mean, Red Grange is just a modest-sized man, but obviously he tore his knee up really badly. It was either in 26 or in 27, and he was never the same. But when he was at his best was obviously in college, and in 1925 when he came into the pros, and but he was not a huge human being. He had obviously he had great moves. He relied a lot on his blocking though as well. But I mean, if you got him in the open space, he was he was rather electric, but he was no Bronco Nagurski. I mean, if you ever seen pictures, Bronco Nagurski was just a huge human being, especially back then. He was over 6 foot tall. I think he was like 220 pounds or so. But you look at that dude. I mean, you ever look at the 1934 Sneakers game, highlights of that, and especially in the first half when they're handing the ball off to Bronco Nagurski and he's just running at the Giants' their defense. I mean, you just see how huge a human being. I mean, there's no belly. I mean, he's just like a solid human being, big, strong. I mean, I wouldn't want to tackle that guy. Lord knows. All right. So Nagurski was ripping off runs from 3 to 7 yards as the Bears worked the ball into Green Bay territory. However, it was Red Grange's interception of the Packer pass and his return to the Bear 37-yard line that gave the Bears an opening for their first score. Luke Johnson took a couple of short, quick passes over the line, and Nesbitt reeled off 22 yards between right tackle and guard to put the ball on the Bay 27-yard line. Then Joneses, unless it was Johnson, let me see. Do we have a starting lineup here? Nope. No starting lineup. Okay. All right. Then I'm going to say maybe Johnson, because you got Johnson here and Johnson. So Johnson and Johnson, right? Got behind Dunn and took a long pass over his head for the score and followed by a place kicking the goal. With the opening of the third period, the Bays launched a drive that carried the opening kickoff back from the Packer 31-yard line to the Bears 6-yard line, where Llewellyn fumbled, the ever-present Red Grange falling on the oval on the 1-yard line. Nesbitt punted out to Dunn, who'd fumbled, trapped and recovering for the Bears on their own 49-yard strike. A lateral pass to Red Grange was tried, and the Redhead fumbled, Llewellyn and O'Donnell recovering for the Bays. Again, a touchdown march was started, but 2 penalties and a pass done to blood that Johnny could only reach with his fingertips on the 6-yard line spoiled the Bays' last scoring opportunity. Nesbitt goes for a score. The Bears countered their second touchdown in the early part of the fourth period when Joneses sneaked out all alone and received a short side pass in the corner of the field. A short side pass in the corner of the field. Luke also kicked the extra point. Nesbitt's 38-yard dash over right guard and the drive that enabled him to break away from 3 Packer tacklers gave the Bears their final touchdown, and a pass Brumbaugh to Grange off place kick formation brought the extra point. Although the defeated Packers still have a chance to win the undisputed championship by defeating the Spartans in Portsmouth, Ohio next Sunday, earlier in the season, the Bays walloped the Spartans with ease, but because of the Packers' slump in most of their recent games, anything is liable to happen. And the Packers didn't win. They wound up tied. Each team scored a touchdown. Early in the second period, Engelmann of the Bays and Litzinich of the Bears crashed heads on after a Packer pass, and both were knocked unconscious. Engelmann was carried from the field and removed to a hospital, where his injuries were dressed and several stitches were taken in the cut over his right eye. All right, so that's that one. I think that is the end of that, right? I believe so. Yep, that's the end of that. Okay, so we'll go on now. I think I have, where are we at here? Share screen. Chicago Tribune? Yes, it is. Okay, we're going to go to page 27 of the December 8th edition of the Chicago Tribune. This is on two different pages here. Okay. So we got Brumbaugh to Joneses. Pass scores twice. 22,000 watched the Bears overwhelm Green Bay 21-0. And here's a little bit of history here for you, okay? The Blackhawks, that's where the Bears and the Cardinals were going to play their final game, right, in Blackhawk Stadium. Well, they beat the Falcons. Well, the Falcons, for 1 year, were for 1 year, were from 1930 to 31, the Detroit Red Wings were called the Falcons. The Detroit Red Wings came into existence in 1926. Well, from 1926 to the beginning of the 1930, they were called the Detroit Cougars. 1930/31 season, they became the Detroit Falcons. The 1931 to 32 season, and ever since they became the Detroit Red Wings. So the Red Wings were called three different names: the Cougars, the Falcons, and then the Red Wings. So if you ever look back in time and you see this, the Falcons here, that's the Detroit Red Wings. All right. So it is. Yeah, Johnsos. Okay, the left end, Johnsos. I guess that's how he's. But you got Nagurski, you got Red Grange. Cal Hubbard, another Hall of Famer right there. So, had some good players in this game. And by the way, Cal Hubbard's the only one ever inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame and the Football Hall of Fame. Football Hall of Fame as a player, but the Baseball Hall of Fame as an umpire. All right. Green Bay's string of victories over the Chicago Bears, which had stretched well nigh 3 years, was snapped decisively yesterday afternoon at Wrigley Field when the 1929 champions of professional football and the leaders in the race this season went down in defeat 21-0. 22,000. A cheering mob was completely filled the west stands and overflowed the less advantageous sites. So the Bears and the Packers supremacy. Now, it was also the last time they played the Packers played the Bears earlier in the season, and they beat them 13-12. There's also at Wrigley Field. There's also 22,000 fans there too. It was the third game the champions have lost this fall. The Cardinals had won after 22 consecutive Packer victories. New York duplicated defeat, but the Bears yesterday not only broke through the redoubtable Packer defenses for 3 touchdowns, but kept inviolate their own goal. Packers come back. The scorebellies, the hard-fought struggle. The Bears first crossed the Packer goal with less than 2 minutes remaining of the first half. And this 7-point margin was threatened repeatedly in the third period when the Packers came back with the fury of attack which once had swept all enemy gridirons. But the Packers tossed away their opportunity just as it seemed they might crush the wavering Bear forwards. Llewellyn fumbled on the threshold of a tying touchdown, and the ball, eluding O'Donnell's clutching arms, rolled free on the Bears' 1-yard line where Red Grange recovered for Chicago. Ends Green Bay marches. This was the peak of the Packers' strength, for although they returned to battle the remainder of the third quarter in the Bears' territory, the champions lacked the power to connect their short gains into a touchdown march. The Bears fought on defense throughout the third quarter. They did not accomplish a first down. Indeed, they seldom were in possession of the ball except the kick after a successful defense of the goal line. Then as the Packers' attack weakened, the Bears revived. Red Grange intercepted Llewellyn's pass on the Green Bay 29-yard line. And on the first play, Brumbaugh passed to Luke Johnsos for a touchdown. It was the same play which had earned Chicago's opening score and was executed with precision which permitted no improvement. Precision which permitted no improvement. All right. Nesbitt runs 41 yards. Third time the Bears scored. This was done by Dick Nesbitt, who sliced through the center of the yellow-shirted Packers to dodge impeding tacklers in a leaping, halting run of 41 yards. The 21st point was a masterpiece of deception. Twice previously, Johnsos had placed-kicked the points after touchdowns. Once again, he prepared to kick. Brumbaugh squatted on the muddy turf with familiar routine preparatory to holding the ball. Back sped the ball from George Trafton, but Johnsos leaped forward to block, and Brumbaugh, stepping back a pace, lobbed the ball to Red Grange for the point with no defender within yards of him. In this manner did the Bears manufacture a victory, and that victory be... So we'll go to the next page. All right, and that victory... Okay, let's see here. And that victory belonged to the team. True, Bronco Nagurski played with a power which could not be stopped without gain, and which frequently carried him yards with a host of tacklers only halting his progress by their massed weight. Red Grange perhaps did not gain on the offense as in previous games, but the famous redhead checkmated the Packer forward passes as if he divined his opponent's thoughts. You've already read of Nesbitt's touchdown run, but Dick also stood deep in his own end zone to kick 50 yards downfield after Llewellyn's fumble had ended the Packers' march. And Brumbaugh can't be overlooked. He threw the passes on which Johnsos scored, and moreover selected those plays at the proper moment. The Bears line delivers. And what these men did could not have been done without the cooperation of a hard-charging, blocking line whose few shortcomings were forgotten in the brilliance of the whole. Even so, it was Green Bay's strength in that third quarter, rather than Chicago's weakness, which opened up a path for the Packer ball carriers. Neither team threatened in the first period. The play, as far as ground gaining indicated, favored the Bears. Early in the second quarter, Engelmann, Packer halfback, and Joe Litzinich of the Bears crashed together when Engelmann was racing after a forward pass. Both were knocked unconscious and were carried from the field. Neither, however, was seriously hurt, and they were revived in the dressing room. Wow. Grange intercepts the pass. Shortly afterwards, Red Grange intercepted a long Packer pass, which he brought back to his own 35-yard line. The Bears were off for their first touchdown. The Grange pass to Johnsos in midfield. Nesbitt, the third selection for right half following Litzenich's injury and Bill Sen's retirement with a fractured rib, ran to the Packers' 27-yard line. 3 plays gained 6 yards. On fourth down, Brumbaugh faked the pass to a plunging back, then passed wide to Johnsos. Luke caught the ball in full stride over his head and eluded his guard to score. The Packer drive in the third period netted 5 first downs, but no scores. Then in the fourth quarter, Grange again intercepted a pass. The Bears were on Green Bay's 29-yard line. On the first play, Brumbaugh passed to Johnsos. Johnny Blood, the Packer halfback, failed to cover, and Johnsos jogged on to the goal line. Nesbitt scores a touchdown. With only a few minutes to play, Bronco Nagurski came up with another of the flood of Packer aerials. The Bears made first down on Green Bay's 42-yard line, and after Nagurski had plunged for a yard, Nesbitt whirled into the line, found an opening, and was gone for his touchdown flight. The Bears made 10 first downs, none in the third period. 8 were from scrimmage, 1 on a penalty, and 1 on a pass. The Packers ran up 7 first downs, none of these in the first half, though. The Bears completed 4 of their 9 forward passes, 1 was intercepted. Green Bay tried 19 passes, only 4 were completed, while 6 were intercepted. So basically they completed like a little over 20% of their passes. Like 1 out of every 5 of their passes wasn't completed. Whew, that's pretty bad. And what kept the Giants in it was the Giants wound up beating the Dodgers. the Brooklyn Dodgers in front of a crowd of 22,000. So that kept them in second place. All right, so all right, that's that. Now we go to the Green Bay Press-Gazette, where they do a very good job of covering. I mean, they love themselves some Packers. Let me tell you what, the Packers are covered very well back then. Very, very well. So we're going to go now to page 19 of the Green Bay Press-Gazette. Bears humble Packers by 21-0 score. And here is once again, here's the start lineups. Both teams. Substitutions. Referees: Khan, umpire Scott, head linesman Smith. Each team used quite a few substitutes. Packers had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Bears had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So both teams had 8 substitutes. So that's quite a bit. Passes paved way to Bruin grid victory. Now here it says 20,000, right? In the other articles it said 22,000. 20,000 see Nagurski and Johnsos star in the great Chicago tilt. Now as you see here, right? Well, let's see. What wound up happening is the Giants finished with a 765. The Giants, that was their last game. They played one more game apparently, but I guess it did not count in the standings. So as of right here, I guess the game it was an exhibition game or something, but this is their final record. It was 13-4. They finished with a winning percentage of 765. The Packers had one more game to play. They played against the Spartans, who were 5-6, 5-6-2. Now the Packers tied that game, so the Packers finished with a record of 10-3-1. They said the ties did not count in the standings, so the Packers at 10-3 had a 769 winning percentage. So by .004, the Green Bay Packers nudged out the New York Giants for the 1930 championship. Very, very close race. Very, very close. So, and by the way, the Bears would win the final game of the season 9-7, the game that played in Chicago, in Chicago Stadium, in the Blackhawks Stadium. So they finished 10-4. So their winning percentage was over 700. So you had 3 teams that finished with winning percentages over 700. So it was a very, very close race. Very, very close. Very interesting season, 1930. All right. So and I think it was the last game of the period between all the teams, Packers and the Spartans. All right. Anyway, Chicago. Everything must end somewhere and sometime, even the reign of the Green Bay Packers over the Chicago Bears that is extended over a 3-year period. The Packers were overthrown by a mighty onslaught of the Bears before 20,000 fans at Wrigley Field here Sunday, but they did not relinquish their rule, as the score of the 21-0 might indicate. The dethroned Monarchs went down fighting every inch of the way, and even in defeat. They looked good despite all sage-like utterances to the contrary, but the combination of Nagurski, Johnsos, and company was too much. Not sure why they duplicated those guys' names. I have no idea. Summed into a trite explanation, the Packers were beaten at their own game, the overhead attack. The Bears have learned the secret of pass completion since the years when they suffered defeat after defeat at the hands of the mighty Northerners. Yay! They have learned more. that to intercept an opponent's pass entails just half the work of completing one of their own. And so the Bears won on passes of the Packers as well as their own. 5 of their own were good, and 6 Green Bay potential touchdown passes were intercepted. A powerful, vicious team. The Bear team that whipped the Packers was a different team than the Bear team that hadn't won a game from the Green Bay since 1927. Much different. It was a powerful, vicious, and ever-fighting Bear team that playing smart, alert football that had plenty of power and deception thanks to the work of Coach Ralph Jones. Now, George Halas from 1920 to 1929 was the coach. This was the first year of Ralph Jones's coaching career with the Bears. Actually, George Halas coached the Bears for 40 years. 4 separate times he coached them for 10-year increments. The first one's from 1920 to 1929. The new Chicago coach had a mighty team on the field with Big Bronco Nagurski as his kingpin. The big fullback was here, there, and everywhere, unstoppable by one man and sometimes 2 as he smashed ahead with the ball and backing up the line like a stone mountain on defense. Then he had Joneses, who put up a whale of a game, scoring 14 of his team's 21 points, and there was Red Grange, the Illinois immortal, who seemed to get better and better as the years go by, and there was a young chap named Nesbitt, who has warmed the Bear bench all season because of injury, but who made his presence very much felt when he smashed through center and out of the arms of 4 to dash 39 yards for a score. And there were many others. Oh, yes, Savoldi, the great Jumping Joe, played a bit too, but didn't get a chance to carry the ball because the Packers had it during his stay in the game and were throwing it over his head. Stage great attack. That's enough about the Bears at present because the Packers were very much in this game too. The Green Bay men were shaded. All right, so let's go to the next page here. We'll go to page 20. So the Green Bay men were shaded. Where we at here? Green Bay men were shaded. There we go. The Green Bay men were shaded in the opening periods, but they came back in the third period with an almost superhuman effort to overtake these powerful Bears by launching a drive that carried them from their own 30-yard line to the shadow of the Bear goal, only to lose the ball on a fumble on the 2-yard line. Now, you see, I think it said in the other articles, I guess if they're talking about the one that Red Grange recovered, in the other articles, they said he recovered at the 1-yard line. Here he said they recovered at the 2-yard line. Had they gone over at this stage of the battle and tied the score, the outcome might have been different, as they would not have had to take the chances they did. They tried to stage another attack a few minutes later, but first sustained drive had taken too much out of them, and they lost the ball on the Bear 15-yard line. After that, the Packers began to slip behind the constant pounding of the Bruins. They kept trying hard, but the Bears were better, perhaps because of the hard, grueling season has taken so much out of the Packers and left them tired and crippled, and added 2 touchdowns and extra points to the 7 points made in the second quarter to make sure of the victory. There wasn't much excitement in the first period as both teams were cautious and felt each other out, much as fighters do in the first round of a bout. The kicking honors reign of the Green Bay Packers over blood due to the wind. An intercepted pass by Molenda on his own 32-yard line stopped whatever threat the Bears had to offer in that period. Engelmann is hurt. Llewellyn got off a good kick soon after the start of the second period. Michael grounding the ball on the 11-yard line. Dunn ran the return kick to the Bear 34-yard line and then called the pass to Engelmann. The former South Dakota Flash dashed to the left and made a great jump into the air to grab the ball, but Litzinich also jumped at the same time, and the pair came together head-on, knocking both unconscious. Both were carried off the field. The men were revived after a short period, but did not re-enter the game. Needless to say, I'm sure they both got concussions. The Bears then opened a drive that carried them to midfield, where Nagurski carrying the brunt of the attack, but they lost the ball on downs when the Packer line stiffened. An exchange of punts gave the ball to the Packers on the Bears' 38-yard line. A pass done to Fitzgibbons was just missed by the latter, and on the next play, Red Grange bobbed up and intercepted Dunn's pass to Blood on the goal line and raced to the 37-yard line before he was stopped. The intercepted pass was the start of the march that went the entire length of the field for the Bears' first touchdown. After it came some more of Nagurski's copyrighted line smashes, followed by a pass to Brumbaugh that was good for a first down in midfield. Then came a 25-yard run by Nesbitt to put the ball on the Packers' 28-yard line. The former Drake halfback finding a hole in center and spinning through and going on until brought down from behind. Johnsos scores touchdown. Or Johnsos. Then it was Johnsos' turn to come into the limelight. He grabbed a pass over center from Brumbaugh for a 6-yard gain. On the next play, he dashed to the left and took another pass out of the air with a great leaping catch and fell over the goal line for a touchdown. The pass was perfectly timed, and Johnsos' lead was just right. Then, to add to the insult, Johnsos kicked the extra point from placement. The half ended shortly after this play. Jumping Joe Savaldi went into the game as the second half started, and the Packers proceeded to give him plenty of work. McCrary and Blood alternated in making life miserable for him by smashing through the line to put the ball in midfield. Then Llewellyn went over left tackle for an 8-yard gain, and Blood added a like number of yards around right end. McCrary made it first down on the 37-yard line. A pass from Dunn to Blood was complete on the Chicago 18-yard line. Llewellyn went to the 12-yard line on another smash at center. Llewellyn smashed over right guard going to the 5-yard line, but the ball was knocked out of his hands and rolled to the 2-yard line. Blood made a great try to recover it, but just missed, and Red Grange recovered for the Bears on the 2-yard line. Nesbitt got off a good kick to the 40-yard line when the ball bounced out of Dunn's hands and into traffic and recovered for the Bears. However, Grange fumbled a lateral pass play, and the Packers recovered, so there was nothing lost. Johnsos scores again. Again, the Packers started toward their opponent's goal. McCrary and Llewellyn alternated in carrying the ball for a first down on the 22-yard line. A forward pass done to Blood was good on the Bear 11-yard line. But the play was brought back, and the Packers penalized for being offside. Dunn again passed to Blood, this time for 5 yards, then passed to Nash for a 6-yard gain. On the 4th down, Dunn again tried to pass, but the ball just trickling off of Blood's fingers, and the Packers lost the ball on downs. So the Packers had the ball down there, and they just were not able to cash in when they were down there. A pass from Llewellyn to Blood gave the Packers a first down on the Bears' 15-yard line as the final period started, but Drury intercepted a trick pass from Blood on the Bear 39-yard line, and the Packers' final threat ended. After an exchange of passes, a desperate Packer pass was intercepted on the Packers' 30-yard line, and on the next play, faking a wide end run to the right, Grange cut back and shot a straight long pass to Johnsos over the weak side of the fleet. Over the weak side as the fleet end ran unmolested for a touchdown. The play caught the Packers flat-footed, and no one was in 10 yards of Johnsos. Again, he kicked the goal for extra point. The final touchdown came a few minutes before the final gun. Nagurski intercepted Herbert's pass to Blood, and Nesbitt got loose through center, pivoting away from one man and shaking off another before he ran 39 yards to score. A pass to Grange added the extra point. The Packers still hold the lead. The Packers hold the National League lead despite the defeat, but must take the final game next Sunday against Portsmouth to win the championship again. The Giants, by winning from Brooklyn, are .004 points behind the leaders. So, but it says they have to win. They didn't have to win. They could tie. So if the Packers won or tied, they would win the championship in their final game. They tied the spot in 6-6. So here we go, the play-by-play. The Bears won the toss and chose to defend the north goal. Johnsos kicked off to the end zone, and the ball was brought out and put in play on the 20-yard line. Blood raced around right end for a 13-yard gain, but fumbled, and the Bears recovered. Grange tried left end and failed to gain, fumbling on the 33-yard line, and Green Bay recovered. Engelmann hit center, but the Bears were offside and were penalized. Engelmann hit right guard for 3 yards. Molenda made a yard at center. Molenda hit center again, and it was 4th down with 2 inches for a first down. Blood punted to Brumbaugh on the Bear 15-yard line. Grange hit right tackle for a 3-yard gain. Brumbaugh hit center for 1 yard. Molenda stopping him. Litzinich kicked out of bounds on the Packers' 19-yard line. It was a beautiful kick and sailed to the right over Dunn's head. Engelmann failed to gain at left end. Molenda gained 2 yards at center. Grange knocked down Blood's pass to Tom Nash. Blood punted to the Bears' 48-yard line. Grange failed to gain at left guard. A lateral pass to Grange was missed by the latter, but he recovered for a 2-yard loss. Litzinich punted to Dunn, who ran the ball out of bounds on the 30-yard line. Engelmann on a cutback picked up 2 yards. Molenda added a yard at center. Molenda made a yard at center. Blood punted to Brumbaugh, who was down on the Packer 48-yard line. Blood spilled Grange for a 5-yard loss on a lateral pass play. A pass to Johnsos was knocked down by Tom Nash, but the Bears were given a first down 10 when Packers linemen were holding. The ball was put into play on the 50-yard line. The Bears were penalized 15 yards for holding. Hubbard threw Brumbaugh for a 2-yard loss. Nagurski cut off left tackle for a 13-yard gain. A pass to Johnsos was knocked down by Blood. Litzinich punted to Dunn, who was down on the 15-yard line. Engelmann failed to gain at left end. Blood punted to Brumbaugh, who was down by O'Donnell on the Green Bay's 45-yard line after a 5-yard return. Litzinich on a triple pass play went 4 yards around left end. Grange failed to gain at center. Molenda intercepted Brumbaugh's pass on the 32-yard line, taking the ball out to G. Grange's hands as the second quarter ended, taking the ball out of, Red Grange's hands as the second quarter ended. Molenda failed to gain at left tackle. Blood lost 2 yards at left end. Llewellyn went in for Blood at left halfback. Llewellyn got off a great kick. Michael grounding the ball on the 11-yard line of the Bears and 1 yard from the sidelines. Wow. Brumbaugh carried the ball out of bounds without a gain. Litzinich punted to Dunn, who ran the ball back to the Chicago 34-yard line when he was stopped. Engelmann made a yard at left end. A pass to Llewellyn to Engelmann was incomplete as Engelmann and Litzinich came together, knocking both out. Engelmann was carried off the field unconscious. Litzinich also was carried off the field. Apparently, they were both unconscious and had to be revived in the locker rooms. Fitzgibbons went in for Engelmann, and Sen replaced Litzinich. It was a head-on collision, and both were hit hard. Dunn's pass to Llewellyn was incomplete, and the Packers were penalized 5 yards. Llewellyn punted out of bounds on the Bear 18-yard line. Sen went around right end from punt formation and gained 9 yards. Grange went over center for a first down on the 36-yard line. Nagurski made 6 yards off left tackle. Nagurski sliced off right tackle for a 5-yard gain for a first down on the Packer 49-yard line. On a double pass play, Grange picked up 6 yards. The Packers took timeout. Grange made 3 yards around left end on a cutback. Nagurski was stopped without a gain at center. On a punt formation play, Nagurski hit center and the yardsticks were brought out. The Bears failed to make a first down and the Packers took the ball. On a high pass, Llewellyn juggled the ball and lost 5 yards. Llewellyn's pass to O'Donnell was high and wide. Llewellyn punted out of bounds on the Bear 25-yard line. Brumbaugh was knocked for a 1-yard loss by Earp on a wide end run. Brumbaugh's kick was poor, going out of bounds on the Bear 38-yard line. Dunn's pass to Fitzgibbons was just missed by the latter. Grange intercepted Dunn's pass on his own goal line and by some clever sidesteps and open field running dashed to the 37-yard line before he was stopped. Nagurski made 5 yards on a drive over right tackle. A pass to Brumbaugh was good for a first down on the Packers' 49-yard line. Nesbitt went in for Sen. Brumbaugh picked up 2 yards on a quarterback sneak. Nesbitt, on a beautiful open field run, pivoted and dashed to the Packer 28-yard line. Nagurski picked up a yard at center. Nesbitt was spilled by Hubbard for no gain. A pass Brumbaugh to Johnsos gained 6 yards. Another pass Grange to Johnsos was caught by the latter over the goal line for a touchdown. It was a long, wide-range play to the end who outran the secondary to make a great catch and score. Johnsos kicked the ball over the goal from placement for the extra point. Score, Chicago Bears 7, Green Bay Packers nothing. The Bears kicked off to the Packers' 40-yard line where the ball was where the ball was downed. Dunn's pass to Fitzgibbons was wide. A pass done to Fitzgibbons was good for 12 yards and a first down on the Bear 48-yard line. The Packers were penalized 5 yards for being offside. Slate went in for Hubbard, and Hubbard shifted to end, Nash leaving the game. A pass to McCrary was knocked down by Nesbitt. Llewellyn's pass to O'Donnell was intercepted by Nesbitt. On a spinner play, Brumbaugh gained 1 yard. Nesbitt made 2 yards as the half ended. See, the thing was with Hubbard, one of the things that made him great, too, was that he played on the offensive line, and he also played on as an end, too. So, Sabaldi started the third quarter. Sabaldi, Trafton, and Murray went in for the Bears. Blood went back in the game. Wooden went in for Bowdoin. Nash went back to end. Johnsos kicked off to O'Donnell on the 30-yard line. Llewellyn picked up 4 yards off left tackle. McCrary added 2 yards through center. Blood went over left guard for a first down on the 42-yard line. McCrary went over left tackle for 4 yards. Llewellyn went over left tackle for 6 yards and another first down on the Bears' 48-yard line. The Bears took timeout. Blood raced around right end for an 8-yard gain. McCrary hit right guard for another first down on the Bears' 37-yard line. Blood failed to gain on a left end play. This was like when they started talking about, like in the third quarter, like the Packers started playing really well and now playing the Bears, but they didn't score any points. A pass from Dunn to Blood over the center of the line gave Green Bay a first down on the Chicago 18-yard line. It was a great fake cross-buck play. Llewellyn made 5 yards at left guard. McCrary added a yard at center. Llewellyn fumbled and Grange recovered on the 2-yard line. Packers had their chance. Blood nearly had the ball, but it slipped out of his hands. Nesbitt kicked out of trouble to the 40-yard line, and the ball bounced out of Dunn's hands, and the Bears recovered. Grange failed at center. Nesbitt failed at left end. Grange fumbled on a lateral pass play, and O'Donnell and Llewellyn fell on the ball on the Chicago 33-yard line. Lots of turnovers. McCrary made 6 yards on a cutback at left tackle. Llewellyn made 2 yards at right tackle. Llewellyn hit left tackle for a first down on the Bear 22-yard line. Llewellyn lost a yard when McMullen broke through and caught him. Dunn passed to Blood for a first down on the 11-yard line, but Green Bay was penalized 5 yards for being offside. Dunn again passed to Blood for a 5-yard gain. Dunn passed over center to Nash, who was stopped on the 16-yard line. Dunn's pass to Blood just trickled off Blood's fingers, and it was the Bears' ball on their own 16-yard line. Brumbaugh was stopped at center by Slate. Brumbaugh carried the ball out of bounds as the quarter ended. So the fourth quarter started, Chicago 7, Green Bay nothing. Nesbitt punted to the Packers' 47-yard line, where Trafton downed the ball. McCrary made 2 yards off left tackle. A pass from Llewellyn to Blood was good for 15 yards and a first down on the Bear 35-yard line. Nagurski went in for Sabaldi. Blood's pass to McCrary was intercepted by Drury on the Bear 39-yard line. Nesbitt picked up 2 yards at center. Nagurski made 5 yards over right tackle. Grange made 3 yards and a first down on an off-tackle slant. Nesbitt failed to gain on a reverse play to the weak side. Brumbaugh added a yard at right guard. Nesbitt kicked out of bounds on the Green Bay 14-yard line. Blood lost a yard around left end. Grange intercepted Llewellyn's pass on the Packers' 30-yard line. Grange pass to Johnsos was clear far over to the left of the field and grabbed the ball on the 7-yard line and ran unmolested to the goal line. No one was in 10 yards of Johnsos. Johnsos kicked the goal for the Bears. The score was now 14-0. Herbert went in for Dunn. Herbert's pass to Blood was intercepted by Nagurski on the Bear 48-yard line. Grange picked up 2 yards at left end. Brumbaugh lost 2 yards at left end. The Packers were penalized 5 yards for being offside on the play. Grange went over the center of the line for a first down on the 39-yard line of Green Bay. Nesbitt failed to gain at center. Nesbitt cut through on a fast opening play, evaded 2 men, and ran 39 yards for a touchdown as McCrary chased him but couldn't quite reach him. He was nearly stopped on the 32-yard line but pivoted and whirled out of the hands of 2 men to score. A pass from Nesbitt to Grange from placement kick formation gave the Bears the extra point, with the score now being Chicago 21, Green Bay nothing. The Bears kicked off to McCrary on the 18-yard line. Blood raced around left end for 9 yards. McCrary made a first down on the 30-yard line. A Packer pass was intercepted by Johnsos. 2 line plays picked up a yard as the game came to an end with the final score, Chicago Bears 21, Green Bay nothing. Let's see. And sometimes they have, let's see if they have anything. Sometimes they have extra. What do we have? Okay, we got sidelights here. Okay, here we go. To the surprise of the fans who have been watching the Packers call their signals aloud for many years, the Packers shifted to the huddle system on occasions in the second half. The Bears appeared to be familiar with the Packers signals and shifted to meat attacks as the signals were called. So they were calling signals, and the Bears were like, oh, we know what you're going to do. So as the Packers maybe shifted, the Bears shifted to, so. Michael, Kern, and Hubbard played the entire game. They were just as prominent as ever, turning in good accounts. Jugger Earp also saw 60 minutes of service, shifting to a tackle on defense occasionally, while Hubbard dropped back to play a 5-man defense against passes. The Packers broke up every lateral pass play tried by the Bears by sending one man in motion in the same direction as the man moving laterally in the Bear backfield. When the Bear man got the ball, the Packer halfbacks were always there to get him. Engelmann's parents telephoned the Cubs ballpark by long distance when they heard over the radio that their son was hurt and carried off the field. They were assured that the halfback's injury was not serious. Labby Dilweg was not in uniform as his injured knee has not healed. O'Donnell worked the full 60 minutes at one end. Tom Nash, using a special helmet to protect his smashed nose, alternated at the other end with Hubbard. Most of the players returned to Green Bay last night and early today. They probably will work out here for a few days before heading south for the final game against the Spartans. The Packers completed 7 of 19 passes, 6 were intercepted. The Bears completed 5 of 10 passes with 1 intercepted. The Bears made 11 first downs to 8 for the Packers. Whitey Wooden replaced Bowdoin at right guard in the last half. Both held down their center flanking jobs in good shape. I think that might be it. Let me see. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. But I mean, I tell you, you can really see, the Green Bay Press Gazette does a phenomenal job, of covering. Yeah, I mean, it's the Packers when they always like a play by play, almost like every game, do a fantastic job. Not every. I mean, you figure like with Chicago, huge, right? Sports, a lot of people, a lot of newspapers in Chicago. You don't get a lot of good coverage necessarily for the Bears, and tell you what, the Cardinals are they do a very poor job of covering the Cardinals. Okay. 1925, when the Chicago Cardinals won the championship, the Cardinals were maybe the worst team at being covered in pro football by the newspapers. It was very, very horrible. But just going to show you, it's Green Bay. They love their, and they still do to this day. So that's what happened on this date, December 7th, 1930, between the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears at Wrigley Field. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.